Well, welcome back to Be the Change with Valerie Atkinson. I know it's been a minute. It's been a minute. I've been missing in action. And you're probably wondering, what the hell has Valerie been up to? I've just been digging things that I didn't know I had of myself. So I want to talk about how you realize like a lot of the triggers and things that you used to run from, things that you used to hide from, and how do you portray the image that you thought you were? So you may be wondering like, what do you mean by the image, Val? Like I'm gonna talk raw, deep, like the ego. I did not know that I was driven majority of the time by ego. I can tell now when I do run it like that and when I don't want to be on that level. Majority of my life I've kind of just stumbled upon, trial and error, but not like this deep. I understand that a lot of us go through different episodes in our lives, whether it be love, job loss, grief. It could be a handful of things. I think for me, it was all of the above within the last 3 years. It's been insane for me. I don't even know how I've gotten this far, but I'm here and I'm here to tell you, like, you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. I think what it is that I've gotten to the point where I realized like I allowed my ego to control all the things that I felt within me when I could have just really just sat down with myself and had a conversation with that little girl. A lot of people don't really take time to just go in and really reflect on the feelings that they have about themselves, the unsubconscious triggers and the subconscious. And you're probably wondering, like, what does she mean by that? So I started realizing, like, a lot of the things that I was doing was unsubconscious things. Like majority of the time I would just be thinking, like my mind would just be randomly aloof. And I realized like, why do I do that? It has a lot to do with your mind. Your mind controls every single action and thought and feeling that you do have on a daily. I realized like I had to sit down. I took a big break from my tarot channel. I decided that I was like, okay, why do I continue to do so much more and not feel any accomplishment after I've done so much? And the thing is, the ego will kill you. It will shed a lot of the dark things and it will shed light. And that's the beautiful thing about transformation. I think here for me, it was realizing like, why was I doing so much for that part of myself that I knew that I could still do and not having to do it 10 times more or having to show up 10 times more. Like I was doing to a point where I wasn't even taking care of myself at this point. I was just doing. As an independent mother of 3 beautiful children, I can see where I was getting burned out and I just could not catch a break mentally, physically, spiritually. Like even meditation wouldn't be enough for my heart. Within the last week, I called into work and I said, I can't do it. I had a night where I thought I was going into like a psychotic episode, if you want to say. Like I was in fever. My body was cold. My bones were cold. It just felt like I was undergoing like an illness or something. It was just weird. And my stomach was cramping up. I couldn't sleep. My thoughts were probably going at 1,000 miles per hour. And at first I was like, let's hope it's nothing chronic, right? With all the viruses that are out there. And I was just like, no, I'm going to think positive about it. I'm just going to give me soup, nurture myself. I'm going to lay it down and just sleep in. And that's all that I did. Honestly, I just literally gave up. You know that part where you fight? And me as an independent mother, you have to fight. You don't have anybody to catch you, especially in these moments. And this is where I had to have a big talk with myself and a little inner talk to myself because I'm always so hard on myself. Like, I don't give myself the enough appreciation for what I do on a daily. And I was seeking outside of me validation for, I don't know if it's admiration for what I do as an independent mother, but I realized like no one's there to save me. Nobody is. Like, my mom's not here. Like, no one's going to tell me. It's like you have to have some grace within yourself and accept the fact that no one's going to save you. And it's sad, but it's true. Like, I really had to sit down and realize, like, why do I feel this way? I literally poured my heart out. I journaled that specific day. I journaled what is no longer working for me. A lot of things shed light, and I realized, like, my ego, besides the fact that I was done with people pleasing and allowing myself to do more than I should when I shouldn't, you know? And I do understand, like, now that my ego wants to know, like, that I can do more, and I know that I can. It's just my ego, I had to just tame it down a little bit and say, you know what? It's not the end of the world. It's not a rat race. There's no reason for me to be working 10 times harder. I don't even know the last time I realized I was breathing. This is how I knew, like, besides everything that's been going on with my life. And I was like, I don't think I've had a break to grief enough from all the things that have been happening in my life. Because my ego was telling me it was okay to show no sense of fear, no sense of condition, no sense of like false hope. And this just comes to show like what our body and mind and soul can do at a level from hiding from what you feel and needing to just let go of. You have no power over the situation anymore. You have no power over you because you allow this thing, which is, I'm going to say it's a shadow. And I had to learn this too. I've been doing a lot of shadow work. And I realized like my shadow just wants to be heard. My shadow just wants to be loved. My shadow just wants to be nurtured. It just wants to feel safe. It just wants to feel stable and secure. And it wants to feel loved. And I couldn't do that for her because I was too busy giving it for others. Like overextending myself. Like, mind you, I do everything in this household. And I realized like where I wasn't speaking up for myself, where I wasn't setting boundaries for myself. Same for my job. Like, I was allowing a lot of situations happen, but I was allowing that to just trigger and trigger and trigger every ounce of anger that I had about myself, because it wasn't really about others. It was really about me this whole entire time. And I realized like, okay, why is that? So going back to, having to just take a day off because my heart just couldn't no more. I was starting to have anxiety and I was getting anxious, and I was like, my body's just not wanting to accept this, and I need to accept this. Why am I having a hard time fighting it? And I realized like my ego was just ready to attack, and that's what it wanted to do. And I was like, I can't do that. I can't. So your body stores so much energy, right? And when you're running at this energy frequency, it only allows a certain amount of love to come in because you're only stuck in this frequency. And I realized like energy is everything, right? You project what you give out to the universe. And I wasn't saying like just because my life is going this way, everything's happening because my life has been going like this. It didn't come to terms when I had to face that mirror and realize that I was the reason why I was who I was, the reason of being this way. I created a freaking image of myself, which I'm going to say it was a victim role. I allowed myself to feel like a victim because I allowed my ego to think that I needed justification for people doing what they were doing and for me to fight back and for me to stand my ground, blah, blah, blah. And then I said, there's no way in hell that I'm going to continue to live 10 more years if I continue to repress myself like this and continue to feed my ego. I'm going to end up having a heart attack at this point. So, no, I was like, I'm going to sit the fuck down, excuse my French. And I said, we're going to have a talk with this ego. We're going to sit down, we're going to cry, and we're going to shout what we need to shout out into the universe. And of course, like, I had an episode where I was just like, why? And I realized, like, wow, girl, you literally realize what the hell has been happening because you were projecting what you felt on the unsubconscious level. So let me get back to this. Like, so I went on a trip because ego trips happen, right? So for example was like, I remember like I was at my job, like, you know, like I was starting to get angry, you know, customers were kind of like jolting back and I was just like, okay, I can't be doing that. And I get that. But I was literally projecting that frequency for that frequency to come back. And I had no idea. But it starts with the person, right? It starts with exhibit A. And then exhibit B literally just transpires the same effect. So I had to get down to it, right? So I was like, you know what? Let's get to it. We need to start changing our frequency, the way that we speak to ourselves, the thoughts. And, you know, guys, I'm going to say this all openly and honestly. Thoughts are never going to go away. And unfortunately, our mind was programmed at a very young age how to survive, how to keep going, and doing what we are supposed to be doing. And what we were planted from a very young age, we caught from that, right? Obviously, we've all had different childhoods. So as I'm laying here in my bed, respectfully giving myself my nurture and care, I love this version of myself that I'm doing now. And you're probably like wondering, like, why now, Val? Because I gave myself grace. Like, I finally gave myself that grace and said, you know what? You're fighting nobody. You're only fighting yourself at this point. Yeah, you're really having a fight with your ego. And it can hurt you. It can really mess you up if you continue to be belittle yourself, critic yourself. And let's just say this is how I knew something was going on with me. I realized, like, even when I woke up, the first thing that came to my mind was always something silly, out of the ordinary, the worst thing you can think of. Like, it was just a thought. And I don't even want to say it on here because I don't want to project that anymore because I am no longer that. But the things that I would think, y'all, it was insane. Like, I was like, why the F am I even thinking this right now? It's first thing in the morning. I literally just woke up. Like, girl, no. Girl, no, we can't be doing that. We can't be doing that. Excuse me. Oh my gosh, I burped. I apologize. And I am a firm believer now. And I'm saying now, with everything that I went through, in a matter of weeks, that I decided to just like blow the whistle on myself and say, you know what? What are you doing? What are we going to do? How are we going to pour into ourselves when we haven't been pouring in our cup for a very, very long time? Yes, I see where I could have done more for myself, but I just didn't know what I needed. And I think that's a part of healing. I know a lot of people are like, yeah, you go to the gym, you're reading books, you're listening to podcasts, you're here listening to me. Wonderful. But you really want to dig deep? You need to face that person in that mirror. And that mirror, you're going to see that identity that you no longer want to be, but you keep fighting it. You keep wanting to prove more and more to this ego that at the end of the day, you're going to end up exhausted, lack of awareness, anxious, greedy, petty, angry, resentful, empty. I mean, completely effing empty. There's nothing more outside of you that's going to make you even happy. At this point, money is not going to make you happy. Nothing will make you happy. And that was a hard pill to effing swallow because I was grinding to the bone because I wanted to get that bag and I was getting the bag. And I just said, you know what? I don't need that. I don't need that. I already have everything I need. And I'm realizing it now. Like this whole entire time, I think what it was, I was afraid of getting lost and not knowing how to get back up. And that's a huge wake-up call. And the thing is the fear of not knowing, right? The fear of the unknown. And we get in our way by just becoming stuck to that version of yourself because that's what you know, right? And that's what I was talking about, the subconscious patterns, your thoughts, trauma, triggers, etc. And I wanted to pour my heart to you guys, and I wanted to share what I went through because I was like, I'm sure I'm not the only black sheep in this room who has felt this. And you felt like, what the hell? What is going on? Am I going crazy? Because for a second, I kind of, I'm not going to lie, I even told my therapist is an organization, which is the safe space. It's our community where we talk about a lot of the things that we are going through, right? And by the way, I'm grateful for that community. I think this is where I've gotten really deep with my spirituality even more. Yeah, let's talk about that in another podcast, but another episode, or maybe I'm manifesting to be on another podcast. Who knows? It's insane for me to say it like that. But I realized how I was hurting, and I just didn't want to admit that I was hurting because I wanted to prove a point to that version of myself, which was not happy with herself to begin with. I think you need to hear that again. I know I'm going to have to hear this podcast again, or this episode again. I could not make that version of myself happy no more. That's where I realized the frequency I was shifting to is not working for me anymore. I was continuously going back to the same effing thing over and over and over again. And I was like, why am I still like this? Because hello, this is what you thought you knew. And now you're starting to break out of that frequency. So your body's trying to forgive itself, and you can't counterclockwise or count clockwise, right? You know, the little hand on the clock keeps going right. It don't go backwards. But where I was getting stuck was like, I knew that version of myself, but I was too afraid to admit to this new version of myself that I could be that person. That was a hard pill to swallow. Because yeah, it's not going to take, it could take months for people. It could take years. It could take a day. It took a day for me to realize this, y'all. I don't have to pay nobody. I paid it to myself. I earned this medal. And I'm saying medal because, boy, did I realize where I was spiritually unbearable to myself. Yeah. You reap what you sow. And it's true. You reap what you sow. So I'm a firm believer that at this point in my life, if I've learned to unadapt myself from that version of myself, that identity that I thought I was, I can't even be her no more. I don't even want to be her. Like this new me that I'm creating, I even trip myself out because I wake up and I expect myself to do something different. It's that crazy, but it's just like the shift that I did with myself is where I stopped allowing that version of me to adapt to this new me. Like, because I was countlessly saying things to myself that just were not there to begin with. And there were some harsh things that were there that I just had to admit to myself and I had to accept, which are flaws. And I just want to let you guys know, nobody's perfect. I'm far from perfect. And look at my throat chakra closing. But I realized where I was not exploring those avenues of myself at all. And now I'm just grateful that I was able to see the things that I needed to see clearly now for me to outgrow what I just couldn't face. And sorry, guys, my daughter came in and she showed me this beautiful picture that she drew. She's an artist. And it's got a heart on it, by the way. Very artistic daughter that I have. I'm so grateful. And the things that I see now within myself are just beyond that. I don't consider myself anything more than just me now. Like, this me. I don't even have a name for her. I don't. I think this her is just being her now. And it's like, I love this version of myself that I can say, I feel liberated. Like, I really do, just talking that I just oh, it took so long, but sorry guys, I'm getting emotional because for a long time I didn't believe in myself, and it's a hard pill to swallow. And I have to accept this, that I have so much more that I know that I have to know now that I'm going to learn. And I want to be able to teach others what I have gone through, and that you're going to become this metamorphosis of yourself, and it's going to continue to grow. There's things that are going to happen in life, and you can't allow your ego to feel unsafe, unheard, whatever you may think. It's growing. It's growth. It's learning that you're no longer the victim, and that you are a creator, and that you are the love that you deserve to be and that you desire. There's nothing outside of yourself more than what you can do than you can give to yourself, and become that beautiful human being that is ready to just love effortlessly. I have to pinch myself sometimes as I'm driving, because sometimes I feel like I steer off on La La Land. And I don't know if that's just a normal thing, but when I do, I drift away. And this is one thing as well that you're going to start to pattern, like you're going to start to witness, like while you're doing your tasks, it'll come and go. It'll come and go. Trust me, it does. It does for me after the day that I went through that episode. But that's when I know, where I'm self-aware now, that I'm not fighting for flight anymore, that I know that I need to calm myself back into that grace, right? Go back to that grace where you're not fighting anything or anybody. Yeah, someone's going to honk at front of you. Someone's going to try to race you. Someone's going to try to flick you off because they think that you run them off the course of their drive, or they're running late to work. But guess what? That's their problem, not yours, babe. Did you hear that? That is not your problem. Your problem is what you're doing right now is the right thing. There's no right or wrong. Life happens. Things will happen to try to see if you're going to steer off track, or if you're going to make a change about things that you used to do versus what you can do now. And that's the step of awakening of yourself. Because a lot of these things that people sell you and give you and blah, 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 but they don't give you the details of what happens through this process. I'm telling you, because I just went through this, and it had to happen to me, because there's no other effing way that someone would have realized, oh, Val is just the tarot reader. She's the one that just does tarot readings. She's perfect. No, y'all. What I say far from perfect? Perfect up in here. there's more to it, and I'm going to talk about it on different episodes because this is just the beginning of my beautiful metamorphosis. And I can finally accept my ego, and I can accept her, and I have to remind her that not everything is a race. She's loving, she's kind, she's passionate. She just needs a little extra heartwarming love to her. And I have to reassure her. So that's when I go back and I talk to her and I have these conversations and I journal and I go deep. But I just wanted to share my experiences with what's been going on with me. I appreciate every single one of you, and I hope that you can achieve that version that you want to become is when you stop fighting it and letting go and surrendering to the universe. Anyways, thank you guys again for tuning back in here with me to Be the Change with Valerie Atkinson. I love you guys very much, and I will see you guys next time on the next episode.